Hola mi gente, ¿cómo están? Mi nombre es Alba Mar, me pueden decir Alba, el canal se llama Seriala, estamos aquí para hablar de libros, algunos de ellos en español, desde Puerto Rico. Hello, my name is Alba Mar, you may call me Alba, channel name is Seriala, we're here to talk about books and some of them in Spanish from Puerto Rico. It's been a while for personal reasons, lots of losses here, personal as well as social and political. And I have not been in the mood to do videos of bookish entertainment, but there has been an activity, an event taking place on Instagram that I've been following, and I want to commend the young people over there on in Instagram for informing me, first of all, that the Empire has deemed it fitting to celebrate Puerto Rican Heritage Month, which I did not know was a thing. As I live in Puerto Rico, well, we're always celebrating our heritage every single day, except that I'll put it up here. We have the custom of calling it the 19th, El Día del Descubrimiento de Puerto Rico. Yeah, we celebrate Columbus Day. That's our Columbus Day, that Columbus was supposed to have discovered Puerto Rico, which he didn't. Yeah. But it also happens to be the 19th of November, the day that our nationalist heroine and leader, Lolita Lebron, was born. So perhaps we can change the designation of 19th of November to Lolita Lebron Day. That would be great. So in honor of Puerto Rican Heritage Month, I thought that I would share with you, and also combining it with Nonfiction November, that I would share with you some of the nonfiction books that I have enjoyed, especially in the past. Before I do that, I want to tell you the name of the person that I have been following on Instagram that led me to know about Puerto Rican Heritage Month. And they had a wonderful activity called Puerto Rican Heritage Tour, which involved a number of Puerto Rican Instagrammers, bookstagrammers that I had no idea existed. So I'm very grateful to have learned about those bookstagrammers. And if you look at the description box below, and then also up here, it's Sharon at BookDragon217. And through her, you'll be able to find all the other magnificent booktubers, young people who are doing some wonderful things in poetry, in literature, and just lifting up the Puerto Rican experience in the diaspora as well as on the island. So yeah, shout out to Sharon at BookDragon217. There are a number of other great things to follow, and I'll try to add them later on. Not only on Instagram, but on TikTok, as well as YouTube, if you want to learn a little bit more about the colony of Puerto Rico. So, the nonfiction books that are in English, that are easily accessible to people in the United States and elsewhere, are the following. Oh, let me see, because I put a few in Spanish in here. As always, Two Lynchings on Cerro Maravilla, which is the account of the massacre of two young independentistas in Cerro Maravilla by the journalist Manny Suarez. Another one that I really enjoyed, that takes place in the diaspora is called Signing in Puerto Rican, which is about Andres Torres's upbringing with two deaf parents of Puerto Rican extraction here in the United States, in New York City. It was a very interesting book. This is a bilingual book, Cartas a Karina, by ex-political prisoner Oscar Lopez Rivera, who was incarcerated more years than Nelson Mandela for his political stance. And these are letters to his daughter, Karina, from jail, part of our carceral canon. Then there is Olga Jimenez de Wagenheim's Puerto Rico's Revolt for Independence, the English translation of Grito de Lares, which occurred under the Spanish regime in 1868. Then, under the United States regimen, we have Nationalist Heroines, again by Olga Jimenez de Wagenheim, Puerto Rican women that history forgot from the 1930s to the 1950s. And there you see Lolita Lebron, who was born on November 19th. Then the interesting case of Dr. Cornelius P. Rhoads. This is called The Unsolved Case of Dr. Cornelius P. Rhoads, an Indictment by Pedro Aponte Vazquez. This is available in English. Yeah, this was a scandal when it happened in the 1930s. Yeah. Then another controversial book, War Against All Puerto Ricans by Nelson A. Denis, Revolution and Terror in America's Colony. It has a pretty good introduction to what was happening in the Puerto Rican economy after the invasion of the United States in Puerto Rico. More recently, there's also the memoirs of Esmeralda Santiago. I'm just showing the second one because that's what was in reach when I was looking for them. But there's a trilogy of memoirs by Esmeralda Santiago, which is very well known to most of us. And most recently, Aftershocks of Disaster. This is a wonderful book about Puerto Rico before and after the storm, a series of different pieces, poetry, articles, essays by different Puerto Ricans, edited by Yarimar Bonilla and Marisol Lebron. Excellent, excellent book. One of the poems here by Raquel Rivera made me cry, and I don't usually do that. Okay, so those were the ones in English, and really fast I'll do the ones in Spanish that have been my favorites. Of course, the one from the 1970s, I still have yellow pages and everything, Puerto Rico, una interpretación histórico-social by Manuel Maldonado Denis, and this is available also in English, an English translation. Favorite, very well written. It read like a novel, very easy narrative language. If you read Spanish, Los Chinos en Puerto Rico by Professor Jose Lee Borges. It has recently been revised. I was thinking of getting it, but I have to control myself. Who am I kidding? One of the articles here is my favorite of all time. It should become a movie. It's found in this book of different articles about Gilberto Concepcion de Gracia, who was the president, the first president of the Puerto Rican Independence Party, el abogado de la patria. And there's an article here by Carlos Mondriguez Torres about the Borinqueniers, the soldiers who fought in the Korean War, and 90 out of whom were court-martialed unjustly and then pardoned after efforts and protest on the island for their liberation. It's a wonderful story. And everybody who reads Spanish, I recommend, should read Promesa, which is the Spanish translation and analysis of the law that President Obama signed that imposed the Fiscal Control Board over Puerto Rico, and that has been menacing us with and enacting lots of austerity measures here in Puerto Rico. Yeah, all of our essential services are under threat. By Rolando Emanuel Jimenez, who is one of the leading lawyers, was taken cases even before the Supreme Court, challenging Promesa. Then there's La Mordaza, which is a wonderful, wonderful book about the gag law that was imposed on Puerto Rico in 1948, which prohibited the flying of our flag and the singing of our original national anthem. La Mordaza by Yvonne Acosta Lespier opened my eyes to what had been happening in the 1950s. Yeah. And why this occurred. La farsa del Estado Libre Asociado, the farce of the Commonwealth, el Estado Libre Asociado, which is not a state, it's not free, and it's not associated, by one of the founders of the party that brought in el Estado Libre Asociado, but who had his eyes opened suddenly when he found out that there was actually no change at all. Vicente Hegel Polanco was his name. And this is a series of articles that he wrote in the 1950s, challenging the implantation of el Estado Libre Asociado and talking about what a farce it was. And now is when people are opening their eyes. Yeah. A wonderful biography of Mariana Bracetti, who was the one who sewed the flag for that revolt of independence in 1868. She's like our Betsy Ross, Mariana Bracetti. Una patriota que no claudicó by Raquel Rosario Rivera. Another biography that I really, really loved was La Gran Ausente, La Maestra, Celestina Cordero Molina, about Rafael Cordero, who has always been celebrated as the founder of public education in Puerto Rico, a black man who educated for free many of Puerto Rico's renowned figures at the time. His sister was the one who really fought for that school. And she had been absent from history, which is why this is called La Gran Ausente. Yeah. Incredible, right? And then the definitive biography of Don Pedro Albizu Campo, who was the president of the Nationalist movement in the 1930s, 1940s, and who died in 1965, I think it was, by Marisa Rosado, Pedro Albizu Campo, Las Llamas de la Aurora. Unfortunately, it has not been translated, but it should someday. I recently read this wonderful memoir about the nationalist insurrection of 1950 by Heriberto Marin Torres, who fortunately is still with us. A wonderful, wonderful, sensitive human being. Eran Ellos, about the nationalist insurrection and his experiences in jail. This was the memoir that I had wanted to read all along, and it moved me as watching him speak always moves me. Yeah. Recently got this one, which is a series of articles from different members of non-governmental groups, NGOs, here in Puerto Rico, and what solidarity really means when it's put into action. So, I want to recommend, for those of you who still are unaware, Bianca Gralao, who is an independent journalist here in Puerto Rico, who's been doing a wonderful series of articles on what's been happening lately here, current events. And you can find her, I'll link it down below, in all the platforms, I think, under her name, Bianca Gralao. And maybe later I'll do a series of people that I've been following on the other platforms. Yeah. So that's it for now. Cuídense mucho. Sigan leyendo. Los quiero mucho. No se olviden la mascarilla. Take care, everybody. Keep on reading. Take care.